Welcome to Manhwa Recaps. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Huge shout out and special thanks to the channel members.
The series starts by taking us to a barren land, as we see men in the midst of some kind of war, and one side has a crazy Hydra-type monster, and one of the soldiers thrusts forward, stabbing another one through the throat. The man goes to say something, but no words come out, as he chokes on his blood, and the other man pulls out his blade, causing him to fall to the floor, and the other soldiers look terrified of him. The man then starts to wobble a bit, and they charge in, thinking that he's exhausted. He looks up, saying that it feels like his heart is about to burst, and every time he exhales, he feels like a knife is scraping the roof of his mouth, and he can't even tell if what's dripping from above is blood or sweat anymore. All of his senses are telling him that this is all real. He tightens the grip on his blade, and status windows begin to appear, telling him that his hidden traits have been activated, and there's quite a few going off. The men surround him, saying that now they can kill him since he's worn out, and the man screams, saying that this is reality. We get a flashback to his room, looking a lot like Asmongold's, and while he's playing at his computer, he gets the game over screen, and he sighs, asking what kind of shit game this is. He says that his life is anything but productive. He says he plays games on the weekdays, while everyone else works hard. When he quit his job a few months ago, he holed up alone in his room and lived like a gaming addict. But he's been doing this since before he quit his job. So this is about his 5th year. He spent 5 years on one single game, and his life is legendary in the worst way. The game that he loved playing was called Pangea, and it gained brief popularity 5 years ago when he first started playing. And if you cleared the game, they would grant you one dream, was what they advertised. And they promoted it with this, which is a ridiculous bait line. And players with too much time on their hands got curious and tried it, but they all ultimately failed. 5 years passed, and no one could ever clear it. And the player count dropped and dropped. And now, if he's not logged in, it shows that the number of online players of the game is 0. If this was real life, people obviously wouldn't quit, and they'd keep grinding it. But he says that the game was infamous for its brutal difficulty when it launched, and you're faced with bosses that make you question if it's meant to be cleared, and companions who betray you without warning, and named NPCs who hunt you down if you get a bounty. If they target your character, you're cooked. The worst part of all is that if your character dies, everything disappears instantly. In other words, you're playing the game on hardcore mode. It's an insane game. Because of its insurmountable difficulty, its brief popularity died instantly, and at this point, someone must be actively preventing players from clearing the game. He had a character loaded with 8 of the 15 known unique items, and his 5 years disappeared just like that. He's then surprised as the game tells him that his character has been deleted, but he has obtained 1.6 million soul points. He's surprised, seeing that the unique items sure did give him a lot of points, and all hundreds of his deleted characters up until now barely gave him 80,000 in total. He explains the soul point system. You were awarded soul points corresponding to the value of your dead character, and it can be invested when creating a new character. And the more soul points that are invested in a talent, the gentler the growth curve. A character he once made by investing 10,000 soul points into sword talent died with the title Grand Master of Swordsmanship. The investment limit per talent is 10,000, and since he has so much, he could invest in everything. Normally, he would focus on the magic talent for a stable run, but he already knows that he won't ever clear the game, so he's going to make this last character his first and last time to enjoy it properly before he uninstalls it. As he goes to press the button, we get a flashback to a woman apologizing to him, and we finally learn that his name is Hyunmung. She says she's sorry. He asks what she's talking about, and the woman says he's a good person, but she can't date someone with no future. She's at the age where she needs to think about marriage. He looks taken aback, but obviously he can't say anything to her because he knows that she's right. She goes to talk about her friends, who are all marrying people with bright futures that are successful. Yet he sits at home. Then she looks at him and starts to feel even more disappointed that he's not trying to stop her, and sighs, saying that she's going to be leaving now, and she hopes he lives a nice life. We learn that this was 3 months ago, and he was dating her for over 5 years, and she dumped him brutally. After, he quit his job in anger and locked himself in his room, becoming a complete gaming addict. He then clicks random on the screen, saying that this is enough patheticness from him, and he starts consuming his soul points like crazy to rearrange all of his stats. But what surprises him next is that it says a hidden piece has been activated. He wonders what this is because he's never seen the game congratulate someone or invite them to a Pangenia. He then starts to feel an otherworldly sensation that's pleasant at first, but instantly it starts to change. His heart begins racing, and he hears a voice screaming, saying that may all the worlds you created burn into ashes, calling someone a wicked god. His head begins to ring in pain, and he squeezes it, asking what's going on, before he starts to lose consciousness. He falls over onto the floor, and on the screen, it's no longer a bright blue, but a red color. They say, "Oh, being brighter than light, darker than darkness, swirling into creation and destruction. May you find happiness in Pangenia." And when he opens his eyes, he was getting whipped by a man, telling him to get up immediately, calling him a useless slave, and if he falls one more time, they'll feed him to the High Dragon. And he's confused as he sees it, and all the other slaves as he looks around. And he wonders what the situation is. His hands begin shaking after seeing the Hydra, and the man hits him once more, telling him to get back into formation this instant, unless he wants to die. Hyunmung is still trying to wrap his head around it, but he follows the orders, walking with the rest. He says the High Dragon is a monster that he knows from Pangenia, and that this place looks familiar too. He then says status window, and to his surprise, it actually opens. All of his stats are 12, and he has tons of hidden talents and traits. The reality starts to set in that he's entered the game. His heart starts to skip a beat, and then he wonders why all of his stats are 12. His stats range from 1 to 10, depending on how much soul points are invested. That's also not considering the fact that he has 13 hidden traits. The ground begins shaking, and he looks over, wondering what's going on, and he sees one of the slave traders' faces filled with fear, as what is opposite them is the army of the Desert Queen. They end up breaking the non-aggression pact and are attacking them, and we see the queen riding another High Dragon. He recognizes the nickname of Snake Princess, saying that he definitely heard it before. The status window tells him that the main quest has been generated. He wonders what it will be, but the main quest is only to survive, and the rewards will vary according to the outcome, and that if he dies in the game, his physical body will die too. His heart starts racing as he sees a volley of arrows fly in, killing all the other slaves and slave traders near him. He stands there like a deer in headlights before his cheek gets grazed by one of the arrows, and reality sets in. One of his hidden traits activates, which is Heart of the Iron-Blooded Monarch. It is a linked trait that only appears when every physical talent is maxed out. It prevents exhaustion, reduces your chance of being caught off guard, and allows you to grasp the situation rapidly. He looks down, seeing one of the slave trader's swords and the keys. He says that if he stays here, he's going to die, so he has to survive. As he's freeing himself from the shackles, a man leaps at him from behind for a surprise attack. Hyunmung grabs onto the blade, and a bright light instantly starts to emanate from it, and he swings, countering attacking the man, dashing past him, slicing him up. As he is activated, another hidden trait called Weapon Master. He then releases a big surge of blue aura. More of the men begin charging straight towards him, and Hyunmung watches as one of them thrusts their spear at his head. He dodges and cuts the tip of the blade off, and even kills the man in the same slash. He turns while the spearhead is flying and reaches for it, grabbing it, saying that even for a weapon he's using for the first time, he can use it like an expert, as he throws it into another man. Another attack comes in, as a man yells, swinging his axe, and Hyunmung dodges backwards, and he says that's not all, as he can also see every single trajectory that the weapon will take, and he uses his sword to slide underneath it, guiding it away from him, effortlessly deflecting the attack. A blue line then guides him to an opening, and he says that since he can see the path of the enemy's weapons, it means he can also see the lines to follow for attacking. He thrusts forward, stabbing the man straight through the heart. He then grabs his axe with the other hand and raises it up, and before the man screams, he dies anyway. Hyunmung then grabs both of his weapons and looks a little tired. As more men start to surround him, he glares at them as they call him a monster, saying that they thought the entire expedition was unable to fight due to their injuries. Another hidden trait activates, called Masterful Hands, meaning his weapon proficiency will increase faster. His sword and spear proficiency both reach level 6 in an instant, and he's surprised, saying that the max level is 10, yet he's already at 6, and 6 means that he should be able to use it like a famous knight, and that the power of a hidden trait sure is different. Even the fact that he lasted this long at his level wouldn't have been possible without his hidden traits. But even that miracle won't let him last forever, as there are at least 500 troops gathered here. So how is he meant to survive all of this? And that this quest is some bullshit. We get a flashback to the Snake Princess kneeling to a woman on a throne, and the woman says that this must mean the expedition to the demon world has failed, asking her if this is true, and the Snake Princess says that it is. The woman says that if it becomes known that they, the desert city of Faisalmere, didn't participate in the expedition, the fools of the central continent will pin the blame of this failure on them, so they need to stop it at all cost, and she is to head to the Kaltzman Desert and eliminate all of the stragglers of the expedition, as they have to erase all evidence that may prove that Faisalmere hadn't sent any troops, and anything that may connect them to the failure of the expedition. If she performs well, she promises she'll lift the curse from her. The Snake Princess, obviously frustrated, accepts the mission, and the woman tells her to remember that she cannot fail. And that is how she's here, where Hyunmung is. A man then reports to her, and she asks if it's all done, and he says that there's still one slave that's holding on, and she seems a bit interested by it. But back to Hyunmung, we see he has slathered the floor with body after body, as he's still standing there unscathed, and he's panting, but we see his level has now increased to 2. So his health and mana have been restored, and his fatigue has been removed too. He's instantly rejuvenated, and the men look worried, until the Snake Princess tells them to move out of the way. They're surprised that she's here, and Hyunmung says that it's about time. We learn that her name is Isabella von Dersian. She's level 8, and she can't leave the area she's in due to the status ailment from the Desert Queen's curse. He can't check any of her other things, because his understanding of her is too low. He says that he can't win against a level 8, no matter how many times he tries, since the highest level in the game is 10, and the standard that separates the strongest level is 7, and from 7 and onwards, the real difference begins to show, and the gap in levels can hardly ever be overturned. Level 8 means that they can almost be considered the strongest anywhere. Simply put, they're at the level of bosses of very famous organizations. He says for him to have to face a disaster like this is crazy. And then he realizes that it says she can't leave the desert due to the curse, and he thinks about something. She hops off the Hydra, approaching him, saying that the show was interesting, but he needs to die right here and now. She reaches for her blades, and he says the reason he played the game, which was criticized for its extreme difficulty, is because even for the hardest games, he would find a way to clear them no matter the difficulty, and that he was one of those crazy masochist players. But he knows how to clear this. As she charges in, thrusting forward toward his head, he asks if she wants the Queen's curse lifted. She stops, creating a shockwave right before piercing his throat, and starts to hesitate. She gets right into his face, asking him who the hell he is, and he says he reads the stars and leads people to the stars, and that he is the star bearer. He says he can help her lift the Queen's curse so she can leave the desert. She looks genuinely surprised, and he says this must mean it worked. The Starbearer is an NPC class that a player needs to transcend the max level, and the class only exists for NPCs, so of course he is not a real Starbearer. But to remove the Queen's curse, she needs the Blessing of Stars, which is given from a Starbearer. Since Isabella wants to escape from the curse, she would have to listen to him. The reason why he was certain that she'd like to escape is simple. He knows all about her, because she is a character that he made. She was an unfortunate character that he had to neglect because he chose the wrong starting point. The Queen's curse is, from the player's perspective, a device to keep the player within the bounds of the starting map during the early game. But a player's character is made to see the end of this game, and they are originally supposed to travel around the world to see the ending. But he left her stuck like a bird in a cage, and she's been tied down here due to the curse of the queen. She asks for his name, and he says that his name is Randolph, and the status window accepts it as his name has now been set, so we will call him that from now on. They stare at one another, and she turns, saying that she'll postpone killing him for now. However, if he is lying, she will rip him into pieces. She then tells the men to escort him, as he is an honored guest, so he must be treated with the utmost care. The main quest has now been completed, and based on the results, and since it was so record-breaking on the border of miraculous, his rewards have been upgraded due to the constellation's favor, and some of them have got their eyes on him. But they continue bumping up his upgrades until finally he obtains a broken piece of the golden scale, the soul of the High Dragon, and the sword of Michaela. He crashes onto the floor, saying somehow he survived, as his vision starts to go blurry, and we see that he earned a total of 220 points, and he'll be added to the Hall of Fame for main quest. That night at a palace, we see him laying in the tub, looking at his status windows and his rewards. He says that the soul of the Hydreigon is infamous for only having dropped once ever since the release of the game, and a must-have item for the early game would be the sword of Michaela he got. He didn't think that he'd be able to get both of them at the same time, but he wonders what the broken piece of the golden scale is about, something about synchronization between reality and Pangenia. 3 women then barge into the room, asking if he would like for them to wash him, and he says just his feet, but he understands that this is a test. As they start to squeeze his grippers, he explains that they are Isabella's chambermaids, and if he showed any reaction to them, she would get suspicious of him, because the Starbearer does not react to any sexual desires. He starts thinking about his dead grandma, telling himself to keep that thing down, but he opens his eyes, because he can't resist the temptation. He starts to stare at one of the women's bazankas before he opens the status window to block it. Something catches his attention though, as he's almost at 8% of the breakdown of Pangenia. There's also a leaderboard showing all the main quest points, but it mentions that the breakdown near the boundary between Pangenia and reality shatters, and when the breakdown goes over 10%, the first crack will proceed. He wonders what this is, and finally he takes a look at the cool leaderboards. We see Randolph is number 1, and since he has been ranked in survival, he has now unlocked the logout feature. The game tells him to be careful because his character is vulnerable while he is logged out. The woman then calls out to him, but he says this is impossible, as he recognizes the names of Gracia and I Love Mint Chocolate. He was wondering if they'd quit because they disappeared, but they must have been summoned to this world like him all along. Furthermore, he has a logout feature, which means he can leave this damn game. He tells the woman to stop as he needs to communicate with the stars. The woman says he needs to be treated with the utmost care, and he says if he doesn't communicate with the stars in time, he'll lose all of his power, so they need to go ask the princess if she truly wants that. One of the women looks surprised and runs off, but Randolph says he'll come see the princess when he's done communicating. They close the door, and he says he's glad that excuse worked. He was scared he'd be stuck here forever, and he's going to log out of this stupid game now. He clicks the button, and as he starts to log out, the game tells him to keep his character in a safe place, because if the character dies, he's going to die in real life. The logout was completed though, and he's now back in reality. You guys think his body just slumped, like in Rust? But chaos has broken out as fires cover the streets, and we see a giant monster walking through some fire as people scream, and an emergency disaster alert has gone off, and he looks out his window, wondering what the hell is going on, as the praying mantis monster is directly under him. It notices him and starts screaming. He falls onto his ass, asking why the monsters from Pangenia are in the real world. Something then falls out of his pocket, which is none other than the golden piece that he got from loot rewards. We get a flashback to just briefly before. He says that was such a vivid dream, but he spots a bag and the yellow item on his desk, asking if this has always been in his room. He says this means everything must have been real, and he wonders what the game is and if the game is still up, but it says that the page does not exist. The game's homepage is now missing, and that is when he heard the screaming from outside, and them screaming at a monster. The praying mantis has already killed multiple people, and the police tried shooting it and screamed about it being an emergency situation. That is when he looked out the window. As he falls onto his ass, he says that this is what it must have meant about the boundary being broken, and he panics, wondering what to do. When he touches the fragment, he feels something, and he realizes something, saying if monsters from the game are roaming freely in reality, then maybe things obtained in the game can also be used here. He runs over to the bag, grabbing it, opening it, getting both the Michaela sword and the soul. He wonders how the hell to use this, and in the game, he only had to double-click it. He then looks at the status window for the gold scale, and it says that he can synchronize between reality and Pangenia, and it can be toggled on or off. He instantly turns it on, saying that this is the only chance he has. A goddess-like figure appears behind him, granting him power, saying that the synchronization between him and Randolph has been completed. For confusion's sake, while he is in reality, he will be called Hyunmung, and inside Pangenia, he will be Randolph, even if he is Randolph in reality. He now has 24 hours remaining on the synchronization. Outside, sees a woman running for her life, holding on to her child. The child asks where her father is, and the mother says that he will be catching up soon. Rubble begins to fall from above and crashes down onto them. The woman throws her daughter away, but gets crushed under the debris. While the daughter is screaming, she tells her to quickly run away. A woman then runs over, barefooted, ripping her stockings, asking if she's all right. The mother says that she's fine, but she should take her child with her. She sees the injuries are way too much to live from, and looks regretful, but says that she's sorry and will protect her. She then turns, seeing the mantis coming straight in for an attack. She sits there wondering if this is how it'll end. A slash comes in, cutting its head clean off. As Hyungmung lands on the floor, he turns and starts slicing it apart. The woman is completely bewildered, but also hella relieved, and wonders who this man is. One of the praying mantises runs straight toward him, and she yells, telling him to look out, until we see one of the high dragon heads chomp it straight in two. The woman asks what the hell that is, and as the high dragon begins roaring, she is trying to understand what's going on. Hyunmung then gets on its head, telling her to stay still. She's surprised, and wonders if she's dreaming because she just witnessed a hero. The child then runs to her mother, and even more people begin flocking to help. She hears the sound of more fighting, and turns, watching Hyunmung slice apart more of the mantises, and asks who he is. The news starts reporting about the monsters appearing all over the world, rather than just Korea. The monsters kill people, and destroy civilization. But they aren't the only things to appear, as along came warriors, who cut down monsters who were immune to bullets as if they were nothing. A man equips some armor, telling everybody to not be fearful, as he will protect all of them, and the world began rapidly changing. We see a man watching all of this on his phone, saying that they're idiots for wasting their fragments, but it's now been confirmed that reality and Pangenia are beginning to merge. His player name is Massacre. He says in the coming age of chaos, everyone is a competitor, and that the two realities will merge into one over time. Those who obtain the fragments will become the protagonists of this era. The ranking that's been unchanged for 2 years has finally been updated too, and the top score is an absurd amount of 220 points. We see he is number 5. He wonders if Randolph is also Phantom. Phantom was also known as Ghost. No one knew his real name, but everyone referred to him by the two nicknames. He was the first person to form an NPC expedition, called the Demon Realm Expedition, the only one to reach just before the game's final clear, though it ended in complete failure. He is undeniably the number 1 player of Pangenia, and since the strongest character he possessed would be summoned upon death, he must have been summoned in Pangenia the moment the expedition failed. Although appearance and equipment are reset, talents from the previous character carry over, which is why he understands his score is so damn high. Back to Randolph. He's waking up, saying that monsters have appeared in reality, and so have summoned players. They've taken on the form of the characters of Pangenia. The situation is becoming more and more clear. With his last character, he nearly reached the game's ending with the Demon Realm Expedition, but the higher-end NPC mercenaries hindered their progress, and even their friendly NPC companions betrayed them. No matter what possibility he considered, their interference was always beyond his expectations. But what if all of those variables were players summoned, just like him? Players who don't want the ending to be reached are players who consider him their rival. People targeted him back then, and that might be the case for the random betrayals. If the boundary between them has collapsed, he can't just hide after logging out. To secure his safety in both worlds, he needs to grow stronger, quickly. He walks into Isabella's room. She asks if he's finished talking with the stars, and he says that he's come to keep his promise with her. She says good, but he tells her he has a condition. She asks what it is he wants, and he says he needs to go to the sanctuary. She looks surprised, asking if he's insane. He explains that the second main quest is getting a class, and the class that he wants can be obtained there, and he tells her that there's a star there. This is the second main quest, and it will end upon him getting his class. Sometime later, we see them heading into the sanctuary, and Isabella walks on in a pool of blood. Since she just wiped out a whole group of dudes without taking any injuries. Randolph says that it only took a few minutes to wipe out all the guards, and there's no ally more reliable than her. We get a flashback to a few hours earlier. When he told her to take him to the sanctuary, she asks what he means by the star being there, and he says that it's hidden. He says that's where it's hidden, and he found the fourth star by chance while raising his previous character. And he's probably the only player who knows its precise locations. He says that to lift her curse with the blessing of the stars, he must obtain it. She says that the sanctuary isn't a place just anyone can enter, and if anyone finds out she secretly brought someone in, she'd be in trouble. But he reminds her that she can enter it, and there's no time, so she has to think carefully, as this is her last chance to leave the desert. Back to now, he says that if he had failed to persuade her then the thing rolling on the ground would be his own head. He tells her that they've arrived, and this is the holy ground, as they stand at a staircase that descends. They enter the hidden sanctuary, which gives them the subquest of exploring it, and the rewards will be granted based on how much he does. It warns him that the recommended level is 8, and this area is overflowing with poison and demonic energy, so if his demon resistance is low, entry is not advised. The hidden trait, Giant's Demon Resistance, starts protecting him, and he says if it wasn't for this, he wouldn't be able to enter. Under normal circumstances, a level 2 beginner cannot set foot in here, and if he sends Isabella ahead and clears the Sanctuary Exploration subquest, the rewards should be nice, but that's not what matters right now, because this is where he can obtain his class. Of course, the quest will end immediately after he gets one, and the reward varies by the tier of the class acquired. He smiles, saying that he knows which one he wants. Isabella peers over the cliff in the sanctuary and realizes it's an awful long way to fall and how far the pillars are from one another. She chuckles, telling Randolph that they've taken the wrong path and that even starbearers can make mistakes. He asks where she's going, and she says that that is clearly a trap, and the downward air currents are designed to sweep away anyone who crosses without knowing. And for him to fail to detect such a simple trap is laughable. He asks if perhaps she's scared, as he didn't know she was this kind of character. Of course, this sparks her competitiveness, and she says that she knows no such thing as fear, and for the record, she's called the Snake Princess. He says she sure is timid, which annoys her. She says the odds of it being a trap are high, and conveniently, she's got a cramp in her leg. He says it can't be helped, so she'll hop on his back. She gets embarrassed, asking if he has a death wish, and he says she said she had a cramp, and there's no time, so she has to get on quickly, because when dawn breaks and the dead warriors are discovered, she'll be suspected for not being there, and the Queen's pursuit team will be sent after her. So rather than wasting time out of fear, it's better for him to carry her and run. She hesitates but hops on his back, saying that it wasn't for her damn leg. He says of course, in a monotone voice. He tells her to hold on tight, and instead of running toward the pillars, he runs straight toward nothing. She asks where he's going, saying it's the wrong direction as there's no path here, and he leaps straight off of it. His hidden trait, Mutant, activates, and this trait allows him to see all secrets invisible to the normal human eye. He starts walking on an invisible path, surprising her, and he says that this is the real path. She asks how he knows a path that even she, the second in command of Faisalmir, doesn't know. And in a sanctuary overflowing with poison and demonic energy, he's not even gasping for breath. There are too many strange things happening to chalk it up to him being a star bearer. He tells her he didn't know the second in command was scared of heights. She tells him to shut up, but also finds it strange that he's so relaxed in front of her. This isn't just confidence from being strong. It's as if he's welcoming an old friend he hasn't seen in many years. She asks if they've met before. He says they've never met in the same place, and she wonders why he speaks in riddles. He says it means that he's seen her, but she has never seen him, as he puts his hand on a wall that begins to exude a bright light. The entire room warps until they're brought to an area befitting the name Sanctuary. Randolph explains a domain barrier was cast over the entire area, and only those who follow the designated path can see what lies ahead. If his memory is correct, what's next is even trickier. Bright red eyes start light up, and the ground shakes as golems begin to stand, releasing killing intent. He says that this time, the guardian is a golem, and judging by the size of the rune on its chest, it's at least upper tier, and at his current level, even a graze would mean instant death. He asks if her cramp is better, and she tells him to keep running his mouth from the sidelines. The golems charge, and one rears back its fist, punching toward her. She grins before slicing it apart instantly, exploding the entire right side of the golem. She tells Randolph it'll be over soon. She bounces across debris, cutting one in half while the other two collapse on her. He says that for her to be classified as an assassin, national species golems are the same, and it's ridiculous. Even though he created her character, he still can't believe it. She cuts down the golems, and he says this is what being level 8 really means. A status window appears, saying he can now acquire the class Golem Maker. He wonders if it's recognizing Isabella's kills as his own, and if that's the case, then the system is recognizing them as a party. In Pangania, summoner-type classes are rare, so Golem Maker is pretty good, and in terms of rank, it's at least high tier, but it's not what he wants, so he declines it. He says that the one who can give him the class he wants is something else entirely. A purple miasma appears around the sanctuary, and Isabella looks around confused. A giant shadow looms over Randolph, and the status window says that the ancient king, the master of the mountain, buried by the nameless star, rages against the intruders. Randolph says it's finally shown itself, and this is the greater god who guards the stars. It is the ancient king, Dramut, and the status window says this is only recommended for level 10 players. As the ancient king gets closer to him, Randolph says the pressure is overwhelming, and says this is the mountain guardian. Isabella says surely he didn't come here expecting her to deal with the mountain guardian, but he tells her not to worry, as he is actually very gentle, opposed to how he looks, and that he will never attack first, even though he does exactly that. She barely avoids it, and as it scrapes past her, she lands on her ass. He sits there confused, and she turns, glaring at him. He says this is strange, as he remembers him as a friendly creature that helped guide the way, and she asks him in what world the snake looks friendly. Dramut calls Isabella Challenger of the Sanctuary, telling her to defeat him and prove her qualification. She says she's not the one challenging it, and he says she defeated his sentinels, and now she's denying her intent. She realizes the misunderstanding as Dramut comes in for a tail swipe, telling her if she cannot prove herself, she will never leave alive. She avoids the attack, saying that it's not her, and she tells Randolph to stop standing there, asking him to do something. He says when he cleared this place before, he didn't have any memories of defeating Dramut, wondering if something changed, and then he realizes it, saying the ancient king guards the star. According to the lore, he's an enchanted beast whose body grew and gained wisdom from the spiritual energy of the star. He cleared this place back when he was raising Wilhelm, a level 10, 5-star, transcendent rank character, and when he came to the sanctuaries, Dramut immediately guided him to the star. The reason is simple, and that is because he was qualified, and is sure if you're weaker than him, he attacks you. But back then, he was much stronger. He thinks about what to do, and while Isabella is fighting for her life, she gets flung across the floor. She says that because of the sanctuary's poison, her body can't move properly, and maybe stepping into this place after hearing what the Starbearer said was a mistake. Dramut goes to attack her, and Randolph yells, telling Dramut to stop. The sheer shockwave sends ripples across the field, and Dramut glares at Randolph, asking how he knows his true name. Randolph tells Dramut that its master Wilhelm has returned. Dramut pulls back his tail, asking if he really is Wilhelm, and then starts laughing as it echoes through the chamber, saying he has not received the proper star. He says Wilhelm was powerful, a perfect transcendent, worthy of being his master. However, Wilhelm failed the Demon Realm expedition, and all his stars fell, meaning he met a complete death. And even if he is gone, a lowly creature like Randolph has no right to speak his name. Drummett unleashes an attack toward Randolph, but Randolph doesn't flinch, and instead tells him to honor the contract they made. Drummett closes his mouth, asking how he knows about the contract, as no one should know about it. Randolph smiles, saying the contract states that the one who retains the star learns the Guardian's true name, and becomes the new master of the mountain, and the Guardian obeys his master's commands. And the contract's contents cannot be revealed to anyone, and if revealed, the one who breaks the pact will die from the curse. He only said it because he remembered the lore. Fortunately, the game's rules still apply, and since this is Randolph's body, the curse doesn't affect him, since the one who made the contract is Wilhelm. Drummett then asks who exactly he is, and Randolph says that if he wants to know who he is, then guide him to the star, and he'll prove himself. Drummett says the star shows no mercy to those without qualification, and he will be lit in flames the moment he approaches it. Randolph smirks, saying, maybe so, and asks if he's afraid the star will acknowledge him, and reveal he is the true master. Drummett says that's laughable, that Randolph is just a brat who looks like he'd crumble from one bite, and wonders why he has the confidence to act arrogantly, but tells him very well he will lead him to the star. He doesn't believe he's Wilhelm, but since he knows about the contract, killing him doesn't sit right, and he'd rather let the star get rid of him, and he slithers away. They follow, and sometime later, Isabella asks if this is really where the star is. Randolph says yes, the object on the altar is the star, and we see it's a skull. She asks if the skull is the star, and he says, more precisely, it is Leah's skull. When Leah, the twin goddess of Pangenia, died, her body was split into 32 fragments and scattered across the continent, and those fragments are called stars. I believe this is the same girl who gave him his powers in reality. Randolph says they're used as catalysts for players to achieve transcendence. As he grabs it, he hears a sound, and a fire vortex emerges. Isabella yells, asking if he's okay, and Drummett laughs, saying he warned him and that he'll burn approaching the star. Although Randolph acted confident the star rejected him, and he'll burn to death. But inside the fire, Randolph is annoyed, saying the star only kills a player in one scenario, when you acquire it by bug-skipping Drummett, and no matter how messy the process he did pass, so there should be no issue. The real problem is whether he can obtain the class he wants. If you acquire a star without having a class, the star grants you the class he wants, but he's never tried it. He learned it by accident. The skull says void, then begins listing out all 13 of his traits, saying he will be the one to face destruction. Leah's skull shatters, and a holy aura erupts. He has acquired the star energy, and the main skill, Star Pierce, and the sub-skill, Blessing of the Stars. He has acquired the star effect, meaning all stats got a +5, and he will gain more power as he collects more stars, and even after Transcendence, the star effect will remain. He has now acquired the class Star Successor. His hair settles, and he asks Isabella what she wants to do once her curse is lifted. She says leave the desert and find her family's bloodline. He says he'll bless her so she can leave under one condition. She asks what he wants, and he says he wants her to serve under him for 1 year, and after that, he'll grant her freedom and help her find her family's bloodline. She recalls when she fell for the queen's lies, and goes to say she's afraid, but he puts his hand on her shoulder, reassuring her, since he is not the queen and has no intention of lying. She realizes he has told her the truth so far, and regretfully goes along with it, saying she will serve him, and she kneels. He says she made a good decision, and then he tells Drummett that the owner of the star is his master, asking if that's correct. Drummett says it is, and Randolph tells him it's time to bow his head now. Since he has finished the second main quest, the results sent a shiver down everyone's spine. The Hall of Fame is updated again, and due to the constellations applauding him, he earns even more rewards, and many combat-oriented constellations start to take interest. It jumps to the Queen Isabella served, looks furious, asking if she truly entered the sanctuary with the slaves she captured, and she orders her men to seize the two of them immediately. They need to start putting Rogaine in the water supply or something. Meanwhile, back in reality, at a cafe, we see two men asking a woman if Randolph is really Phantom, and they say even if they ignore the main quest one, getting a higher class score than Gracia is impossible unless one knows the game inside and out. And if the 5-year veteran ghost player, Phantom, has finally appeared, this will create a huge ruckus. Who I assume is his twin brother says that they might want to try contacting him before the others do, and the woman asks how, since they searched for years and never found him. One of them says that's because, until now, he wasn't an actual player, and now that he is, there must be a way. And they say they could try fishing for his info. Since the secret auction hall opened as a reward for Main Quest 2, Phantom will probably use it. The woman says he'll need tons of items if he wants to rank first for Main Quest 3, and fishing might be a good idea. Fishing can be done at the secret auction hall, where players can trade items. You upload a high-quality item at a cheap price, then use the ability of a talisman to attach a location tracking ability to the buyer, and newbie players who don't know this often buy a cheap item and get tracked, robbed, or killed. One of the brothers asks if Phantom would really fall for it, and if he really is Phantom, he'd know every talisman option in the game. The girl says he might actually fall for it. He failed, but he still initiated Grid Expedition, and that kind of decisiveness is not normal. If he sees a cheap, juicy item in the auction hall, he might just buy it, and if he comes to them, they're dead. That's the Phantom she knows of. They have to meet him and kidnap him, rather invite him to their guild. The brothers instantly start calling the police, and the girl keeps freaking out, saying that he must be an amazing person in real life, and maybe even a major corporation's CEO, and she starts rambling about psychopaths. Speaking of psychopaths, it takes us to an alleyway. Outside of it, we see somebody looking at the new quest rankings for the second main quest, and it is none other than Massacre, asking what kind of class gives that many points, and saying it looks like he won't be using the secret auction hall for a while. Not that it matters, as we see him hunting people in reality, and he says if he kills anyone in the top ranks, he'll rise back up anyway. Now that the subquest has been completed, and it is at 100%, which is an unbelievable number, he is the first person to perfectly clear it, and he acquires the achievement called Conqueror of a Sanctuary, and he obtains a teleport book that teleports him to a previously explored location, and it can be used once a day with a cooldown of 30 seconds. He says the ride isn't as bad as he thought, and he can escape the sanctuary and finish the exploration, which will kill 2 birds with 1 stone. The status window says that he is now leveled up, and now he is level 3. And he says it really is slower compared to regular characters, but his stats have tripled since we last saw them. And he says that the more talents you have, the more experience you need, and what he needs is probably 10 times the normal amount, but his stats grow more because of it, so he can't complain. What matters now is the item he got as a reward for the main quest, 2 extremely rare items for his current level, and one of them is called the Shadow Cloak. Activating its effect turns the wearer invisible, so it is pretty much free stealth, Harry Potter type shit. Dremet is slithering across the floor, and he notices something as he starts sensing the vibrations of feet up ahead, and he tells Randolph that some intruders have been detected. Isabella says that it is probably the Queen's pursuit squad, and Randolph says that they stayed here for quite a while, and she asks what he is going to do, as the Queen herself won't come, but the squad will have a sizable force. Even with the Mountain Guardian, she doubts they can handle them. Randolph reminds her that Dramet is the Guardian, so why do they have to be the ones to fight them? And she realizes that he is right, and he yells, telling Dramet they are counting on him, and that he better do his job. They then hear people screaming about a giant serpent appearing in the sanctuary, and Isabella asks if it is really okay for them to just go. And he reminds her that she said the Queen isn't coming, so it will be fine. There is no way the entire pursuit squad will arrive, so it is probably just the advance unit. And if they get stalled until the main force arrives and surround the sanctuary completely, they won't escape. They are after them anyway, so better to get out fast. And she says she almost misunderstood, thinking he abandoned Dramet because he was useless. He tells her Dramet cannot leave the sanctuary, so their only option is to run. For them to get out, they have to use the warp gate at the edge of the desert. And since he lifted her curse with the blessing of the stars, using the warp gate isn't a problem. The real problem is that the gate needs activation time. She says that once they get past here, they will be out of the desert, and he tells her that's exactly what he is saying, but the gate needs around half a day. There is no real place to hide in the desert, and ideally, the whole pursuit squad goes into the sanctuary, but they will track them. However, with Dramit delaying them until they realize Randolph and Isabella have left, they'll gain time, and during that, he wants to communicate with the star. While Pangenia is important, reality is just as important, and he can't stay logged in forever. And he asks if he can trust her. She pulls out her daggers, saying she will protect him, and he begins logging out. It warns him to keep his character safe and to be cautious when purchasing items from the auction house. He wakes in reality, saying he is still not used to that feeling when returning from Randolph's body. He grabs his phone, saying that since there was no news or alerts, it looks like no monsters appeared yet. There is still a lot he doesn't know about the boundaries merging, but he knows more monsters will appear, and players existing in reality concern him, so he needs to return periodically. He then receives a text asking how he has been. It is from someone named Kim Soyeon, and it jumps to a cafe, and we hear a man telling his ex, who is Soyeon, not to push it, as he already buys her food and clothes, so what is her problem? She says he was meant to be rich, as he was acting that way, and she didn't say anything wrong, and says he is acting cheap. The man says they can talk in person, and she says she has nothing to say since she is meeting a friend today, and she goes to hang up. He asks who she is meeting with, but she ignores him, calling him annoying, and says even though Hyunmung is pathetic, at least he listened to her, and she should have held on longer. And if he had more money, she never would have broken up with him. And she gets excited, saying he came earlier, and she thought she'd wait. He asks what she wanted, and she says she wants to take time talking it over, asking if he has plans later. And she says his vibes changed. He looks fitter. He says he just wants to know what she needs, and tells her to spit it out, since he needs to leave. She says he is acting prideful, unlike his usual self, and says that some things never change, as he always came when she called, and today is no different, and that's something she liked about him. After they broke up, she realized how good he was, and she regretted it, asking if he missed her. He thinks maybe he should order a drink. Since she called him here, he thought she would buy him one, but she didn't. As she calls out to him, he tunes her out, and says if she is done talking, he is going. And she asks where he is going, saying she just told him she missed him, and that it is because of the breakup. But he cuts her off, asking if her new boyfriend knows they are meeting, and if she is going to flirt with multiple men, she should have deleted her pictures, not just her profile photo. He tells her he is leaving, and she begs him to wait. He thinks to himself that if this were the past, he would have panicked, but he is strangely calm, and maybe Randolph's growth affects him too. Outside, he sees people gathering, and people yelling about there being a stalker, and a man pulls out a box cutter, asking if everyone is enjoying the show, and he grabs a woman by the hair, and she yells, telling him to let go, calling him a pervert. The man says they all look down on him until the end, and he is going to kill her. She closes her eyes scared, but Hyunmung grabs the man's wrist, and the man asks who he is. The woman looks up, and we can tell this is the woman from the first emergency outbreak, and Hyunmung tells him that is enough. If you've watched till the end, comment Hannibal to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.